Eelis Kyttänen is a part of a new wave of artists that are hitting the proverbial shores of Magic the Gathering's artistic beaches, leaving brilliance in its wake. Okay, that sounded much better in my head than it does out loud. I really need to start narrating these things before I say them, so. But I also need to stop narrating my thoughts out loud because that further proves that I'm actually an idiot. So, but enough about me. Just remember to hit that like button, subscribe, and check out our Patreon too, where there's rewards like bonus content, artist proofs, and even exclusive MTG art that you can only find here. And let's get to that interview. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Oh, hey, good to be here.
So, okay, the first thing that I'm going to ask is, how did you, because you're one of the, like what I like to call, you're kind of like the new wave generation of Magic artists, like you're the new set. So how did you get involved with, like, how did you initially get involved with Wizard of the Coast? How did that go down?
Right. So I guess to start off, like for every, I think, some people who want to be illustrators, like Magic is always being the kind of, the, how to put it, the heaven, the work everybody always is working towards to get into, right? So that was sort of me, school, and then after school working animation, just really working on my illustration skills. But actually getting into Magic happened quite organically for me. I had applied a few times, like years ago. They used to have this art drop thing that was apparently really full. So I don't know if they even ever saw my stuff. But I kept working on my stuff, and eventually on Twitter, this is why I said it, like organically, I just made a piece for myself from a portfolio. It's actually for a book cover portfolio because I was also working towards that. And this piece got pretty popular. And I think that's what got me into Magic, because I was contacted by one of the art directors really soon afterwards. Like it went pretty viral, so I'm thinking that's probably it, but I'm not sure. So it really, if it was like that, it was very organic. Like I didn't go to any conventions, unfortunately, to meet with ADs or anything like that. It just happened online. I'm pretty sure.
Was the piece? Was it the 1-2-3 piece that you?
No, it was the this black soldier woman on front of this like a white marble wall carving.
Okay, because we'll get back to that one, but I mean I do have some questions because I know that you're working on. It seems like this is sort of like a maybe even like not, I don't want to say life's work, but you've been putting a lot into this 5 seasons of celebration on Patreon.
Yeah.
So the 1-2-3 painting is I believe that's what it's.
Yeah, that's what yeah.
So can I ask what specific, because I know that it's sort of a mystery as to what these stories are inspired by, and you want to keep it sort of exclusive to the patrons, but is there a myth that inspired that, or and how did that come up? And
Right.
it's so fantastic. It's horrifying yet beautiful. It's sort of like it's like that Lady of Shalott, but like in a nightmare. So where did that come from?
Oh, thank you. I'm really glad you like it. I think it's my most popular piece. So, I have probably given like so many different like explanations for this one, because I have this kind of philosophy when it comes to my work that I like to reinterpret. I don't know how to pronounce it, but like I rediscover my work every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
It's always kind of similar grounding to it, a similar background, but I kind of keep rediscovering, rethinking what's this thing about. Kind of keep things fresh for myself. And I also like having people themselves, like I also have their own takes on my work. It gives, and I like to create pieces that are not necessarily very like literal always, that you can actually take from it what you will. But this basic grounding of this piece and my personal project, as you mentioned, 5 season celebration, is Finno-Ugric myths, paganism, history, and landscapes, with a little bit of stuff from the Sami peoples sprinkled in as well. So basically, that geographic location of like a Finland, a bit of the other Nordic countries, and then going a little bit east from Finland. That's where the Finno-Ugric people used to live, and so it's basically, when it comes to this piece, it's basically sort of like a fairy tale type of thing, where
Right.
I'm taking this sort of these concepts very vaguely of, as I said, the paganism and some, like historical stuff we know, and blending that in with the ideas I have of like Finnish environments. And like in this case, a pond that was actually inspired by a pond close to my parents' place, but that's another story. And then it sort of blends into this more of a like a feeling, like fairy tale kind of feeling, rather than a actual like a concept. Like it really, it's hard to describe, but but it still has some like a literality to it as well. In this case, right now, for example, I like to think that it's her ancestors who have been buried in this lake, like holding her
Okay.
up. They're not any more kind of literal embodiments of themselves. You can see a lot of hands in kind of weird positions all over the
Right.
water, right? But they are enough corporeal enough that they're able to hold her up. And so yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. That she's very sure that she's able to cross this. But otherwise, it's really hidden to me. Like I'm not like 100% sure. Like where's this like a woman from? What she actually trying to do there, other than this snippet of it. And I kind of like that, because then now that I'm working on the book, right, and well, there isn't really cohesive story to this book, as I've been talking about. It's very abstract, because I like just kind of illustrating different ideas. It still gives me a bit of room to reintroduce this character in a bit of a different context. Like, let me think. Like for one, like for example, like I had an idea once that right before this scene, she's been giving flowers to these hands, right? Kind of introducing
Oh,
herself to this. So, but so I kind of get that kind of ideas, back and forth, and everything keeps changing. It's just, I guess that's basically like how it is, right? I can give these kind of snippets of
that's
what, yeah,
That's
but yeah,
interesting because yeah, if you had done that painting where she was giving flowers, that would, for me at least personally, would change the reading that I have, because the first thing that I go to when I saw this was, I was thinking, because I'm a horror movie nut, I
yeah,
go to sort of the Wicker Man, Midsummer kind of vibe.
yeah.
Um and yet, like, I mean, you're right, it can be taken either way, but I like yours is much nicer. I'd say your interpretation is much nicer, much more friendly, and makes sense with the theme of the other paintings, which are, they're so fascinating. I now Okay, I'm gonna be a little gauche in asking this question, but you do present a lot with Zara Alfonso. And like, are we an item? Is that what I mean? Are you guys like? It's rude, but are you dating? I don't know if we're
Oh, no,
married.
oh, yeah, we have been together for like 10 years.
Okay, yeah, okay. So, all
This
right.
is
So,
the
getting it out of the
longest
way,
one.
because I
Yeah,
want to. I mean, I've noticed, and maybe I'm reading it wrong, but I feel like she pops up quite often in your paintings
yeah,
as a character.
she does, and part of that is just because we use each other for reference,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
especially when I was a bit, like 3 years ago, for example, when I painted the 1, 2, 3, it I was not as good at, like changing fate. Like it's because sometimes as an artist, you don't have the luxury of just getting the exact kind of person you want for your reference. You kind of have to get a reference and then paint different features on it, right?
Hmm.
So back then, for example, I wasn't as good as changing facial features to suit my liking. So I was relying more on reference. So she kind of just like appears into these paintings. Because of that. There's really not. It's more of
It's like a
like
convenience thing.
yeah, it was more of a convenience thing, and also kind of a skill issue that you said. So yeah, but yeah, it does look like her, and a lot of other characters look like her. Actually, I have a lot of friends who just like a like a joke about, hey, there's Sarah, and there's a few other people who are recognizable too, who I've used as references. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
yeah.
So, can you enlighten me a little bit about why the male characters are have the heads of animals, and the women are like in human form.
Yeah,
Is that part of a mythology that is part of like the sort of the Finland kind of
right.
stories?
No, this is more of uh kind of like my own thing. It's a bit of a shamanistic thing,
Mm-hmm.
but um like I remember, if I now like I recall right, there's some like a cave paintings in Finland that have give like people what I won't say because that might be like a complicating like two different aspects. But I do remember like seeing in some areas, like a cave paintings of people with antlers, and that's kind of like shamanistic thing. But I
Mm-hmm.
can't say for sure if it's specifically Finland. But anyway, so it's kind of like that, and kind of like just like a weird thing. Like it's not. I think with that specific painting, it just happened to be so that all the male characters have animal heads. Because I definitely, like I have, like plenty of, like a paintings under wraps, and one that I've done where it's the other like where like a female characters are have animal heads as well. It's more of a I have this theme. This is another one of these like snippets. It's kind of this theme snippets. One is this kind of underwater dead people, for example, or underwater is disembodied body parts,
Right.
and one is exchanging of heads between animals and people.
Yeah.
It's good. So it's just, yeah, it's sort of just like I have this another piece which is like a huge woman's head on a body of moose, and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
It's
that one,
is that the one where
yeah.
it looks like that like she was felled, or at least that?
Yes. Yeah, that's
Okay.
a good impression of it. Yeah. So I have this idea of kind of switching of heads to kind of see and then maybe the human parts they get this. So it becomes like a mix that they have these ideas of being a human, ideas of being an animal at the same time, and it's just, and maybe that's how you access this concept called. I just call it this because it's an interesting Finnish thing, but it's called like a metsänpeitto, and it's a bit like the upside down world in what's that thing called in
Is it
Stranger
Stranger
Things?
Things? Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's I
think
think
it's, yeah.
yeah. So the concept is a bit like that, in the mythology that it's possible to kind of get lost in this like a other world that's kind of similar but creep in a different ways. And I kind of like that. So I kind of like to think that maybe that's how you get access to this, and that's how the animals get access to the human world. But as said, these are really vague things in my head, and I like to keep it so it is way more interesting to me, like when it's something that you just can't really know,
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you're
yeah,
tapping into the unconscious. You're tapping into like a dream world where it's everything is symbology, and
yeah, yeah,
I think that, I mean, I would imagine that would keep if you're not able to sort of like touch down exactly what it is that you're going for as far as like the mythos behind it, that's going to do
yeah,
the same thing for the viewer, and that will have them create their own narratives.
exactly.
And yeah, that makes total sense to me. Now, you took a class with Donato Giancola,
I
right?
did.
Okay, so you got to tell me about that, because I'm sure that was a epic
It
experience.
it was, yeah, like Donato. I first time I saw him, I've seen him once in real life, and it was in 2014 in Illuskon. And just being able to see his, like just paintings that I've really been a fan of for a long, long time in real life, and also these huge drawings that he does to transfer on
Yeah.
what he works from. Just seeing his process, amazing. So when it came and so when it came time to, I had a chance to pick like a class from. I had some time to pick from Smarter Art School. But shout out to Smarter Art School, amazing people. I really recommend everybody to take class with them. But anyway, I was choosing between Greg Manches and Bruno Giancola, and both are really amazing people, right?
Yeah.
And it was really difficult for me to choose because
Yeah.
it's just, But I went with Donato in the end because it's like ideas how what he does for his personal work are a bit more like close to my heart, in a sense that he has those symbolism and stuff like that in his work. So I went with him, right? And yeah, like just like how he really pulls from kind of art history for his works. And the
Mm-hmm.
way he uses composition, like just like I was just thinking right now, but he just did this like a series of mid-tone drawings just recently for this book project, right? And every one of them has this insane composition. It's just hard to describe how amazing it is. But just
Yeah.
so being able to take a class with him and getting actual like an instruction from him was a huge boon, because actually I made the big dance painting in that one. And it wouldn't have been if he, because, he does a lot of huge crowd scene paintings, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at first his painting was way tighter, smaller, not as extended, whatnot. And he really pushed me, Eelis, like you really have to, extend this painting, like do it. And that's one of the best advice that like I could have gotten at that point, right? So he really pushed me to push further, be more complicated. That's the thing, not being afraid of taking a challenge. Or because usually it's so easy to kind of default into, hey, let's do like one character doing something in the middle of the page, like those are kind of simple and you can do quite a bit of it. But when you really push this complexity, like so many like different avenues open up. So I think that's what I really took away from him from that class. It's just really being ready to push yourself and do bigger things and more complex things. So
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, I will never forget. I mean, I interviewed him, and he was such a badass that he was able to give me a full interview at the same time he was painting a card, like for Magic. Like, and he didn't miss a beat. It wasn't like not even like I didn't feel like he was distracted. Like he was just like on it. Like he could do, like my brain could not do two things at once, let alone something like that. So, okay. One thing that I want to say is that I feel like your spirit token, it's one of the biggest bummers as far as where cutoffs happen, because there was, I mean, okay, you never see spirit tokens really kicking ass. And yours is kicking ass. It is just blindsiding these vampires. And then unfortunately, because of the way the cards are lined up, but I want everybody should check this out. I'm putting it on the screen. There's just this spirit is just like, it's sort of like an Avacyn chain whip. He's just taking him out. What's going on there at the bottom? Because there's all sorts of mayhem. There's like blood coming from the eyes. I mean, what was the inspiration behind that? Like, where did you?
Okay, it's so funny. It's so funny, but so one, I wanted to. Okay, there's a few reasons, but the more boring one is that I wanted to do some human characters and kind of push myself, as I said just now, like push myself to do more. So I can, because I also use these pieces as the ways to kind of learn more, whatnot. Okay, that's the boring reason. The second reason is that, okay, confession time. Vampires, I don't like vampires. It's just as a concept.
You don't?
Yeah, I'm not a huge vampire fan. No, as a mythological creature. I don't know why, but it's just kind of, I don't know why, but they make me uncomfortable.
Oh, they scare you.
I don't know why. It's like yeah, like that. But so I kind of was like, oh, now I have a chance to make up, because the card is supposed to kind of go with it's spawned by one by Marta Nile. So Marta, she did this like a piece of bunch of vampires attacking a boy and his grandmother's like ghost, I believe. So that card spawns the spirit token, or I mean, it was called so in the prompt. So I had a great chance to make a piece where some vampires are getting their ass kicked. So it was, and it kind of fits a theme of the at the end of that storyline, right? All these vampires are getting they're like a really bashed in. I had another piece of the Qatar coming with the prisoners from the dungeons and to kick some more ass. So yeah, I thought it was a good chance for. So yeah, those two reasons. Oh man, yeah, I'm so mad that I don't know, not mad, but I'm sad that I kind of knew that it was gonna be, because it needs flying, etc. But it's how it is, So
yeah, it's a bummer, but it's also one of those really great like surprises that it encourages me to like go look at each piece that's individual and sort of and like search it out. Like for instance, another great example of sort of checking out the sort of behind the scenes stuff is another piece that you did for Midnight Hunt. But before we go into that, I do want to ask you, where were you when you found out that you were going to be on the cover of the Seven Tail Mentor was going to be on the cover of the starter kit? That must have been a wicked cool experience.
it was really cool. I would never have guessed that, because usually they commission those, the cover stuff, right? So it was really cool moment for me. Just felt really nice. And I was actually in Finland at that time. We were on vacation, and somebody from on this, I have it on Discord, send it to me that, hey, let's look your pieces on this. So I went instantly, and we actually went and we bought the package from in Finland.
That's
Because,
right. Yeah. You like,
and yeah, and it was great because I kind of wanted to get a starter pack at that point, and it was fun too because the starter packs are kind of complicated, right? They use two different colors and everything, so it's not super straightforward. So I taught my father to play Magic with me with that at the same time. So
that's
it was like a
great.
double whammy. Yeah, no, it was really great, and it's nice that my name is on the package and stuff like that. It's nice that they credit you even on the package itself.
Yeah.
It's so yeah, it was really cool. I really like that. Was a nice surprise. So. Yeah.
Celebrate the harvest, which is what one of the ones I was going to talk about. There is a lot going on in that, and there is the debauchery that I read that they were okay with the person on the bottom drinking them out of the mug because it was not necessarily beer or something along those lines. Like,
Oh yeah. So no, nobody kind of commented on it, but that's kind of what because they kind of are. They want to, there is certain kind of guidelines that they kind of go with. And so you might sometimes get stuff back that, hey, can you change this? So yes, I kind of just took a chance on it. And yeah, I think you're right that I never received an official word on it, but I like to think that, yeah, maybe it's specifically because, like it could be anything, right? That it could be drinking, but the implication, but then,
yeah, I
it's
feel
all
like,
just, having great time.
I mean, if I lived on Innistrad, I would be drinking.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand how you couldn't. Those people, and they're just like, you got to feel bad for them.
Yeah, it's not great. No, it's not good time on Innistrad at all.
They're just handed shit situation after shit situation after shit situation.
I know.
So
and it was nice that they entrusted me with like a big set piece like that, because that was like, I think that was the second card that I ever made, or was it third? Like really soon. So it was really nice that I got a like story moment like that, like right away. It was a lot of work, but it was because it's very complicated. It's complicated background and complicated foreground, but it was great to get to do it.
And you still, I mean, how did you set that up? Like when you do reference photos, do you do what like say Jason Rainville does, where it's like cut out versions of each of himself, like sort of lined up, or do you get group of friends together? How do you set that up? I mean, because that's a lot of movement to get down onto the
yeah. I kind of do things kind of individually, like kind of shooting, because what Jason does is really, I actually should be doing that, because it's really nice way of setting up your whole thing. And some other artists do that too, as like Patrick Jones. So it's really cool way, but I usually just, like I do things individually. And if there's like a pair or something like that, then I try to get, like two at the same time. Basically when people are interacting, that's when I specifically interacting with each other. Then I try to do it in one go. And it's definitely always best to, if you can, like do, like put things together like that, because it gives you the relationships and whatnot more easy. So yeah, but they're individual setups than this one.
What was the most challenging of all of the paintings you've done so far for Magic? Like one that was like, that really required you to bust it? Like what was that piece? Or do they all come out relatively easy, or are they all difficult? But I usually every artist has one where it's like it took you out of your comfort zone and really made you work for it.
My first oil painting.
Okay, which was that Seven Tail Mentor? Or was that?
No, it's not. Sadly, it's not out yet, so I can't talk about it. But I just want to tell you that was my most complicated one. So not complicated, but it was the most difficult one that I have done. Is my first oil painting, but sadly I can't talk about more. So let me pick like another one. Let me think. A lot of them, I have to say that I like paintings are not always super easy for me, especially kind of coming up with composition. So a lot of them I can think of like some issue that was really bothering me for a long time.
Oh, okay. Well, you can give me examples of that. I mean, I'd love to know the challenges.
Yeah, okay. So a few ones. All right. So with the seventh elementor, the background was driving me insane. I went through like 7 different background types. You know, one there was like a little garden, then was a bigger garden, then a huge maple tree, then a huge maple tree with less leaves on it, then a huge palace, and finally a huge cloud and just a little garden. And it kind of worked out. I kind of really like it still. It's actually like a quite nice. But yeah, really going through these iterations. And I wish I didn't have to do that. Now I'm better with it because with oil paints that I now work exclusively with oil paintings when I do my finals. So you have to have the plan set up. But with digital, you kind of go like, I don't like this, I don't like this. And you can really drive yourself insane. Sometimes, you know, some anatomy stuff can be annoying, like, you know, especially when characters are doing something that you didn't have like a good setup for, like, at your home or somewhere else, like a reference photo for. Like, for example, like Raff, Weatherlight Stalwart, like his lean on his hand because the area is curved was really difficult to get like right.
Ah,
It's like oh my god, it was really getting to me because I didn't have kind of curved surface to really do it on. So it was more like flat, so it kind of shifts, you know, like shoulders, etc. around. So I think it turned out okay in the end, but yeah, it was definitely giving me a bit of pressure. So
I wouldn't have even
yeah,
thought of that, but that makes sense. I can see how that would be really freaking challenging because nobody has the weather light in their
yeah,
house.
I know, yeah, especially the Phyrexianized. No, wait, yeah, Phyrexianized with the light. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it's like it's I mean that piece does stand out though.
mm,
You really did seem to like nail. I mean, you stepped into, like really getting the like that full like paint, like that painterly painting,
mm,
that
yeah,
quality to it. Like and the way the clouds frame him, it's
yeah,
neat. Like it just has this sort of like heavenly uh
yeah,
quality to it, and it gives a weight to a character that already has
yeah,
a history in the game.
yeah,
um Complete the circuit was fun to see because you got I don't think we see a lot of planeswalkers getting their sparks.
yeah,
And was that challenging? I mean, because that is an esoteric kind of thought to make a little elephant man
right.
like spark.
His spark away. Yeah, I kept calling it because I kept forgetting his full name, like Quintorius. You know, I just
Mm-hmm.
kept calling in my head like the exploding elephant man. Like that's my like go to when I think about back to that card. And yeah, it was, you know, it was such a like I really like doing the story cards, right? Because you have so much, they have that weight to them, right? You know, and you get to do a kind of sparking moment. It was great, you know, just having the chance to do, you know, like something like that. It's definitely it's yeah. It's a bit of a, you know, one of those kind of, because it's very, it has a lot of magic in it, right? There is this the golden glow that's coming from Quintorius that's kind of protecting him against this like a torrential blue magic that's around him. So it's kind of like a one of those kind of light show cards, you know, like the
Mm-hmm.
light show magic cards. But so it was definitely, you know, like I haven't done that much, you know, like a magic paintings of magic, right? You know,
Yeah.
so just getting the kind of what should magic look like was quite difficult. And in the end, I ended up relying more on movement. So it has this, you know, like a great kind of circular, you know, like a spiraling, like a movement to it, like rather than like focusing on on the on the like well, I don't know how to put it, but yeah, the movement was an important part of it. And a lot of people have mentioned that they like the like the movement part, so I hope it kind of shows at least.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's it's a great it's a great way to I mean, it is archetypal. It is an archetypal blue card artwork in the sense that it there is that great magic to it. And
yeah.
I've taught so many artists that I've talked to. They say like the toughest part is when they have to show like the swirls of magic. Like,
Oh yeah,
how do you do that? What does it look like? Because it can go wrong so quickly when you
yeah.
you know you have this wonderful composition. But yeah, yeah, it's really it's fantastic.
Thanks.
Okay, inspiring bard. Was the joke already planned out? Because it's difficult to see unless you look closely at your piece. But when you look
Mm,
closely at it, he is really clearly annoying the hell out of everybody who is around him. He's like that morning person that
right.
just is like, get up, it's time to get up, and you're not having it. Was that part of like the joke of the card, or did the name come later, or was that planned out?
Let me see quickly. I just pulled the proxy up because I do want to credit the writers if they get because there's a huge writing team behind all these prompts and the art directors, right? So a lot of like a props. I think more props should go to them, sometimes because they do give us a lot of ideas. So let me see quickly. But the physical was lead and the campfire has burned down low and several adventures. Yeah. So basically, they had like a little, like, I think this is where I kind of got the implication that they have a little part here that says maybe we can see one of those adventurers covering their ears as they're trying to sleep more, right? So I think really, and they're kind of supposed to be sleepy, all of them. And yes, this part is supposed to be very. So it was kind of built into the prompt, to be honest. The feeling of this guy's energetic and ready to go, and all these other people are more like, oh, I don't want to go.
Yeah,
so, but it was
because you've got like a monster in the back. I mean, everybody looks to be pretty much suffering except for him.
Yes, exactly. And I really, it's kind of funny. Like I didn't ever think of myself as some sort of like a great illustrator of comedic scenes, like because I had just done more. Like I thought I had done a bit more kind of serious work in a sense. I mean, not comedic as in like a superficial, but like comedic as in funny.
Yeah.
But people have mentioned, for example, that the dance piece is really funny in some ways. Like there's a little guy looking in and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So getting this piece and then doing it and then seeing it's actually quite funny that way. It's kind of a revelatory moment for me that I guess like I can do things that are a little bit more like funny. Like here's funny, and ended up being that I've now done a few more kind of lightweight cards like that at this point.
Because even like with Rural Recruit, you put mirth into Innistrad. Like it's a fun, like it's cute. I mean, more than likely the Rural Recruit is probably going to meet a horrific end, because it's Innistrad. But it's got a lightness to it. I think probably too, because like thinking about it, like you are good at the whole like mirth and merriment aspect, at least looking at the 5 celebrations. Like you have that scene that you did, so maybe that was sort of the impetus for it. Being able to access.
Good. Yeah, no, I think that makes sense.
You know what I think now you have to do? Like you have to do it because you've said it out. Like you have to do a vampire. Like along the way, you have to do it because you can do it, and it'll probably be an incredible vampire. Because if it makes you uncomfortable, that's good. Like that's good.
I do appreciate that. Yeah. No, I would like to paint basically anything. Like anything. I really love doing all sorts of things. So yeah, that would be, like quite exciting prospect, I guess, to do that, see how it would turn out.
Now we're going to have to talk about, I'm sure nobody wants to talk about it, but that little book, everybody, Lord of the Rings, I'm sure you've heard of it. I don't, it's a few people have read it. When you got the assignment, now I don't know, are you a Tolkien fiend? Like the way
I am, not like a really insane way, as in like my father, who reads it every year.
Really? Wow.
But yes, he's super fan of it. So it was But I actually did reread it just now, like earlier this year, and then I do enjoy it quite a bit in Tolkien. Yeah.
Did your dad absolutely lose it when he found out, when you were finally able to tell him?
Yes, he did. But also, okay, it's funny, but he's got a so I absolutely loved. I absolutely loved doing the scene that I did. It was super great. I fucking loved it. But my father, okay, he's a bit more into kind of more serious part of the Lord of the Rings. So I think he was really like, yes, Eelis, you're gonna get like you're gonna show me, some of this important scene of, let's see, like a Weathertop, or, like a Frodo waking up after his ordeal. And then you have,
oh no, he was like,
no, he was very happy to hear it, of course, I think he appreciates everything from it, of course. So,
it's cool that you got to do Smeagol, because get to do Smeagol, and I think is that Sam or is that Frodo? I'm not
Sam,
okay, because I'm not the best at Tolkien. I read The Hobbit in college, because my roommate I had a big crush on him, and he was
Mm.
like, "You have to read The Hobbit," and I was like, "Okay, I'll do that." But I mean, don't get me wrong, they're great. It was great. I just
Yeah.
am not like the fanatic. I saw all the movies with my dad, you know, each
Yeah.
time they came out, but I'm sort of a passing Tolkien
Fair.
like lover, so to speak, or I appreciate it, but I
Yeah.
you know, there was such a big deal. And one thing I've noticed too is that it's a lot of new artists on the set, which is really cool to see. A lot of
That's
new
true.
names.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, a lot
when
of them. Yeah.
now when you okay, so you now officially switched over to oil.
Mm.
And the I guess the leading question would be, so then if you have to, if you could pick a a live painter and a deceased painter to have over for dinner, that you just admire like immensely, who would they be and why?
Hmm. That's a cool question. Man, it's kind of funny. It changes all the time because I kind of go through like cycles of influence. Like you can see, as you mentioned before, with my 1, 2, 3 painting, you can see a little bit of Waterhouse there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So right now, right now, oh man, how difficult that is.
Yes, I do, and I love asking artists that questions because you just watch the like you watch the
Yeah,
eyes to well, if I could see it,
yeah,
like eyes turning into pinwheels and sort of like I can't pick one. I'm like, well, you have to.
yeah. No, this is interesting. So this is not necessarily the most, like this is not the most like a skilled painter ever because there's so many I could pick, from Sargent to Bouguereau to Bierstadt, blah blah blah. There's so many awesome, really skilled ones. But like somebody who I really still connect to, like in the idea wise, just a weird symbolism and just kind of weird, really feeling weird. Is this Finnish artist, this is a dead one, called Hugo Simberg. It's like
Okay.
Huago and last name Simberj. Yeah, G. Simberg. And he's like a Finnish symbolist who lived like early last century and in a bit of in the 19th. And he had a lot of these paintings like of death with
Yes.
these kind of troll creatures and how they interact with humans. And there's just these beautiful paintings of, for example, this somebody's mother is dying in an old Finnish kind of hut, torppa they used to call them, and his son is playing a violin, and the death has stopped to listen to the violin, like before he takes the grandma away and or mother away, and this is some just beauty to that,
Yeah.
like it's just I really I think it has influenced some of my personal ideas thinking more than I actually realized.
Yeah.
And
Well, yeah,
yeah,
I can see what I see exactly what you mean. I mean, the Garden of Death is
yeah,
arresting. It's like putting, like you said, the beauty of the macabre or of the like tragic into
yeah, that's a very good point. It's contrasts of having something in a moment that's not supposed to be there, but it can be, but it's positive. Like for example, like that's why, for example, with the piece where that huge I have where that huge moose woman carriage has been felled. That's why it's smiling, right?
yes, it's
Because it's
very
that
yeah.
contrast is so important to me. Being able to put these things next to each other, and they really reveal kind of not necessarily. Sometimes it's uncanny valley. Sometimes it's just like kind of just kind of weird, kind of new way of looking at it. It's hard to describe, but I really like Hugo Simberg for that. He has another one, like a little drawing where a young boy has drowned, and in a basically sometimes there's what's like a ice brittle ice, right? And this death is on skates, like a speeding away with the little boy, and you can see the family far in the background, kind of running after them, and that's so beautiful and so sad
Yeah.
and so amazing. And oh my god, I could talk about him for days. But yeah, so I like all those ideas. So that's a dead one. That's a dead one.
So, yeah.
I'll yes. So
That's
yeah,
I believe that I've seen probably more stuff inspired by him uh than I realized where the origins from, because looking at his stuff I've seen so many artists that obviously, I'm not saying Barra, but like it's clear
mm.
that he had influenced, a generation of,
Yeah.
of
There's
people.
definitely this is definitely like pretty well known, especially in Finland. He also did some like a church graphics and stuff like that. So he was pretty well known. Um, as for the alive one, man, this is so difficult to. Oh God.
It's okay. You will survive through this. You will do this. It will happen.
um, hmm. Okay, let me see. Uh, Man, I think I have. Wait, look, let me kick myself for 10 more seconds. Let me
You
cycle
are
through in my
allowed
head.
to. You can. You can take as long as you like. Like it's a free
Yeah,
will zone.
that's good. That's good. Um, I think, as again, there'll be so many to pick from, but I think again, so somebody I met him once, but not having him at dinner, so I'll choose him because without him, I wouldn't absolutely wouldn't be where I am. And that's James Kearney,
Mm-hmm.
because the kind of instruction he has given for free in his blog, in his books, in his YouTube channel, just about the science of realism
Yeah.
is for somebody who went to a kind of art school that was really modern and didn't have any kind of technical teaching, and me and Sarah, we had to learn everything on our own, basically. Having his stuff as a resource, oh boy, I wouldn't be here without that.
Yeah.
Just yeah,
Yeah, no, he's one of those artists where I would kill to interview. He is he's on that same level of Donato where it's like the influence and the amount of generosity that
yeah,
they just have. Like these are very talented artists that don't necessarily have to be as giving as they are, but they are anyway, you
yeah.
know? And
Yeah,
their works just like it's like belongs in well you can see it in like the the great museums which
yeah,
frankly there's some stuff in museums where I'm like we could boot that out and maybe put that in instead because
yeah,
some of the stuff in there I'm like it's a little tired. I mean like
yeah.
I Andy Warhol's fine and everything but do we need like a whole wing for him?
No, that's a fair point. No, I do hope that in the future that all these great Greg Manchester, the Giancola, Ryan Pancoast, list goes on and on and on. These great painters. I hope that we can have like a more permanent museum exhibits for that stuff, and hopefully people will also learn to appreciate it because there's so much love that goes into these things and so many cool ideas. And people like James Gurney, like when I met him, there was he was like painting in a New York garden, and there's like stream of people constantly coming to him telling him how important Dinotopia was for them, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, on a certain way, especially like a lot of these folks, that I think they do achieve that, like that remembrance, But it's interesting to see how things will go. Yeah.
It's weird. Is it weird for you to think that you are now considered a contemporary with Donato Giancola or Ryan Pancoast? Like you're now.
I feel I'm still, in the bottom rung, to be like talk about art, like I'm always looking up, always looking forward, um, but it's cool to coexist at the same time as these people and be on the same, what's it called, what do you call those, wait a second, what parts of the world that man, I know the word in Finnish. Okay, but the landmass that we are on, the Americas. I
Oh,
can't remember the term for landmass right now.
oh wait,
You know,
land like well
landmass. Like
landmass like
no,
what
I
like
mean
continent?
continent. Yes, there we go. It's
Okay.
yeah. I was totally blanking on that. Thanks. Okay, so on the same continent as all these great people, because there's lots of great people in Europe too. Like Finland has its share amazing people, right? But there's
Mm-hmm.
a certain concentration of especially illustration people in North America, and just to be lucky enough and fortunate enough to be here to be able to really meet these people and have a chance of meeting. Like for example, we were in Toronto, sorry, in Edmonton just now in a magic tournament, a Command Fest, and we got to meet Jeff Menches and Jeff Miracola. Like complete legends, both of them.
Yeah.
As well as Chuck Lukacs. We had already met him, but he's
Chuck Lucas.
love him.
Isn't he
He's
like the
great.
sweetest human being ever?
Absolutely,
He's like a peach. It's just like
exactly.
so nice.
and his art is so nice. He has these insane cat tokens. I don't know if you've seen them that have just so much energy to the movements and to the poses. I love him. Yeah. So we met all these people and as I said, Chuck before. But yeah, just to be able to kind of meet these folks and to be in the same space, it's very inspiring, because it always gives me something to strive forward, to look forward, to keep practicing and learning, kind of pushes me forward. And it's also great to get the chance to pick these folks' brains, every now and then. So
it's it's also fascinating that both you and Zara got into the game. I mean, the fact that you're together and doing artwork is astonishing. Was there one that got in first, or was it would it happen at the same time? Because I would imagine, like, if one artist, in a couple, if you have two artists, one of them gets into magic, the other one doesn't.
Yeah.
That could be stressful, right? Like that could be. I mean, it wouldn't be necessarily that you would, have ill will, but it's hard not to be, envious in that sort of position. So when did you, like, what was the timeline for you guys getting into the game? Did you go in together, or what was that like?
Right. As Sarah likes to remind me, she got in 2 weeks before I did.
So there was only 2 weeks of just
two weeks in between. Yeah. And you're right. Like when you're in a relationship with another artist who does kind of almost like very similar things as you do, our personal work is very different, but just, magic work and realism and stuff like that. You have to be able to handle, a bit of, like, hey, other person, sometimes that's better with some stuff, you do sometimes better with other stuff. It's, so yeah, but we got in at the same time, so there wasn't really that kind of like a thing with that one specifically. But yeah.
Have you guys ever thought about doing a piece together, like sort of the way the Burmaks do, or like,
oh man,
like,
like who was, I think it was specifically, actually like Miracola last week, and who's asked me the same thing, like, have we considered it? And we had never even thought about it, because I completely forgot that people have done it. Like you have Johannes Voss had done something too, like ages ago.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, that actually we were talking about it, and yeah, it would actually be quite fun, like it's
it would be great to see how you guys will come together, because you have a similar sensibility.
Yeah.
But she is, hers is very, she has a very, she like is very, I would say, into the aesthetic, the beauty of the pieces. Like she likes beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
If that's, and then sort of, it would be interesting to see where you end and she begins in the painting, because
it would be, yeah.
I would, and maybe it'll be vampires. I know it won't be there, but
she loves
I'm like,
vampires. So
I want everything to be vampires, because I fucking love vampires.
I know you do. That's why I was like, vampires, That's why I know you love it.
I'm like, don't worry, I'm not gonna be offended. I'm like, people don't have to like vampires, but they do have to respect them. Damn it, they have to respect them.
I respect them.
Yes. So, what are you working on now? I know you cannot talk about the NDA stuff, but is there anything that you're working on now that you can discuss that is, like maybe updates on the book, or what's going on with your current artist?
Yeah, so actually just finished my lines for my next personal painting. It's going to be my first oil personal painting, because so far I've just focused, last year I just focused almost exclusively on doing the oil paintings for magic, because it took time and I wanted to do a really good job, so I was kind of really focused on that. So now I have a next painting coming up, and I don't know yet how it will go. It's on canvas. I usually use like a boards for my magic paintings, so it could go anyway. I'm always, when I say, I'm always uneasy when I start a new painting, when you just have the blank thing in front of you. I never know. Like I never. I mean, it has so far. It's always kind of okay, but I always kind of feel like, what if this time, it does. So there's always chance things don't go. But I'm very excited about it, because it's quite big. It's like, I'm looking at it now. It's like a meter high, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be my biggest one so far, and it features a figure that's and it's sort of about autumn and about screaming trees. Ooh. So the more I won't say, because I don't want to spoil it yet. But it's right. I'm hoping, hopefully I will finish it by early autumn at least. Like
that would be poetic.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Let's get it right just in time. Yeah, no, I'm really excited about this kind of doing oil paintings for my personal stuff too, because then I feel like it's going to be like permanent record for myself as well. And I would
Right.
really, my big dream is to apply to IlluxCon's main show
Hmm.
someday. So that's what I'm working on with these at the same time. So yeah.
And I guess what's exciting, I don't know the actual like rules of it, but you being featured on I'm blank on I'm gonna mess up the name, but the
Mm.
bizarre art, I totally screwed it. But they put on 123 on the list of submissions, or on the main page of submissions for the bizarre and beautiful. I think
Yeah.
I'm the
I think, yeah, that
magazine.
website. But I think that was like 2 years ago when I
Oh, it
submitted.
was.
And yeah, they picked it for the I think the people who run the magazine, picked it on the, hey, look, that is cool submissions. Like they picked that on that page. But I didn't actually get in that year. But
Mm.
it was really nice that they put it there, because that magazine, it's really nice. They have all sorts of, I said, with bizarre and beautiful stuff in it. So I really like looking at it. And there's a magic artist whose name I'm now sadly blanking on, but she actually got into that, was finalist, I think, like last time. So, like props to her. Yeah, it's really cool. Uh,
It's such a bummer that, like, say, I didn't realize that Spectrum was, oh, like, ended. I didn't realize that, like,
yeah,
I,
at least it's on a pause right now. I've been
because
hearing some, yeah, sorry.
they had those great, like, the giant books, like those really, like, gorgeous, like,
Yeah,
art books that you could buy at, like, Barnes and Noble. And it just seemed like that was not going to be gone. Like, that seemed like that was a mainstay,
yeah.
and now it's gone. And then I guess my question leading up, so, obviously what's happening with that new Marvel series using AI art. I mean, what how do you navigate those waters, and how bad does it piss
Mm.
you off when people defend AI, right? Is it
It's
just, do you want to punch them sort of hard, or do you want to punch them just like incredibly
uh,
hard? And I know that.
violence isn't an answer. And that's we have to fight by pens, and people like Carla Ortiz, etc., have been doing great work in regards to that.
Yes.
But just on on artist level, and just on like how, it's kind of interesting. But I keep kind of feeling that this is kind of direction that digital art world has been moving to, like for a long time, like
Mm,
in regards to efficiency.
right.
In especially in concept art circles and some design circles, is there's a lot of emphasis put on what's the most efficient way of doing things. And at first it was stuff like photo bashing and stuff like that. Then adding, like 3D, and I'm not bashing any of these methods, right? Like each their own, right? It's but what I'm saying that little by little, like these things have moved towards less about artistry and more about efficiency. So I do see the rise of AI, and who knows where it's gonna go yet. It's kind of difficult to see. But I've been kind of that, that's the direction that things are going, like fully automated kind of art making. Well, I didn't, of course, see AI happening. It was kind of crazy when it came out, right? But just seeing this general progress, like away from artistry of it. But I do think that like high-end illustration jobs like magic are pretty safe for now, at least, because is the kind of specificity that you need at this point for art, for magic art, for example. I have a kind of hard time seeing, you know, how it would like pan out. Like if somebody, if they just like completely used it for it, right? But I'm sure that some artists might be using it already for, to help with their work, like as I said, efficiency, like
Mm-hmm.
generating compositions and like ideas and stuff like that, right? I don't know if anybody is, but maybe. I mean, but personally, I kind of, like if the wages for digital art in general, like if you're not at the very, very top high percent, the wages for digital illustration have been pretty low for a long time. It's kind of hard to
Mm-hmm.
make a living, to be honest, especially when
Yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
living in the West, right? So that's why years ago was like, you know what, I should probably focus on traditional stuff more, because I was kind of stupid when I was 19, 17, when I started when I started doing art. I jumped right into it digital, and I completely, well, not completely, but I kind of didn't properly learn to draw or paint and stuff like that. I just did digital stuff, right? So through these years, it's been a long process for me, but I really focused on my traditional skills, a little by little, building to it. And it really came to conclusion, like last year when I started doing oil paintings for Magic. And now with my personal paintings in oils, and just basically I don't do almost any digital stuff anymore. I do still, I do my final lines and and color sketches digitally,
Yeah.
just because the iteration is a bit easier.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I'm fully committed. And because I do think, even though it's still a risky bet, but I think now with the AI being where it is, I think there's going to be a lot more appreciation for originals and something that you can actually have in your hand. Maybe there won't be, right? Maybe, but that's what I've been kind of betting on, and
I
looking
mean,
at,
I think so. You can't match you cannot beat the tangible, like where you see the brush strokes, you see where the hands have been. And speaking of hands, I would like to see AI art do hands like Donato, because if it can ever get that good, then we're fucked. Because
that's a good point. Just the arrangement of it,
Yeah, I mean, it's not at the point now where it's like an actual threat, but I do find it to be particularly offensive in a sense that that it's using stolen stuff. Like, I'm all for using technology. Like, I was never one of those people who, when digital first came out, there was the big uproar that, oh, if you were a digital painter, you were not a real painter. And I argued that you can't like sit me down in front of a computer and then put me at a program, and I'm not going to be able to make what these people make. So there's definitely skill needed to do it. But I guess oh, go on.
Oh yeah, and it's really like, I was trying to put myself, if I was now 21 and still really learning and seeing the AI output that can look really good, it can look really good often. So just seeing that, like, how would I feel at that moment? Would I be completely discouraged, or what would I do? It's really hard for me to, see back to like to that point, to kind of see how that would affect me. But I do think that, it really sucks, and I think people should be really kind of outraged about it, right? But you just mentioned, how the databases use, like a lot of copyrighted stuff in them to produce what they do. But I do think that it's always important to kind of to look forward, to kind of see, what can you do to help your own position, right?
I see. Okay.
Because I do think that, for example, with AI stuff, I don't know, as I said, I don't know if it's going to become a big threat to illustration, stuff like that, but the cat is kind of out of the back in a certain way. Like, is the genie going to go out back in a bottle? I don't know. Did it go with photo bashing and stuff like that erased like some jobs in regards to book covers, for example? It never went, never, book cover work never came back, like, I mean, of course there's still some jobs, right? But it's nothing like it used to be. So I do think that everybody should, as an artist, you can always have to be, it's a difficult fucking career. So you always have to have all these different things in the fire, always ready to go, always trying to find new ways to make that living. So just kind of staying still and kind of hoping that all this stuff goes away. I think I'm not saying like people are doing that or stuff like that, but just from my own perspective, like, because it feels sometimes, what's the point, if just these programs do this? But I'm telling to myself, no, there's always a way. I'm really trying to kind of find that way. So, not staying still, moving forward, essentially.
That's a healthy outlook. I can understand it. So you're saying, like, for you, being proactive and saying, what can I do that these programs cannot? What can I hone in on it and get better at that these programs cannot do? Exactly. Is how you're going to stay ahead of the curve. Oh, that's measured, because it's such a fraught topic amongst everybody. And I'm interested to hear what artists say. I don't particularly give a shit what non-artists say, because it's usually the people on there that call themselves artists, and, like, let's face it, like, no, I don't think so. I'd be like, I mean, I don't think that you can call yourself an AI artist, and if that's the only type of art you can do, and do in quotations. But yeah, I mean, that's a healthy outlook. It's a measured outlook that I had not considered before, so that's cool. All right. Yes. And then, so if people wanted to learn about you, they go to your Patreon. And so what, if they sign up for the Patreon, how do they get a chance to look at the ongoing process of the 5 celebrations? Like, what's like the sort of like thing they get to look at? Like, how does it come out? Like, are they stories or what? Right. I'm kind of curious. Not for myself. It's obvious for somebody else. I mean, clearly.
Right. So to be frank, it's more of kind of like a project support Patreon sort of. Is that there's not that much, like I do it basically like when I publish an illustration, like that's where that's how it, like that's the pay schedule. So it's not like a monthly thing at anything. It's just per illustration, and it's more like behind the scenes look rather than
Okay.
like a it's like nothing like like when people publish like comics on it, like a weekly. It's more like behind the scenes look. So I do like like I give out sometimes sketches, like what I'm working on, and sometimes it's like when especially when illustration comes out, I usually publish it a bit before I publish it online. I publish it there, and then I put the work in progress piece and pictures there and stuff like that. But it's kind of more like a support Patreon. If you like to, like you like at this very moment, right? So if you like the project, you like my art, like feel free to sign up and like see. And there's some higher tiers too that give you something more like like a high quality, like the highest tier. I think it gives you a very high quality file of the illustration and stuff like
Mm.
that. But it's more behind the scenes rather than like writing out stories and stuff like that. I give some of my more of my thoughts with every painting there, I think, than I do necessarily on Twitter, etc. But right now, at least, it's more of a hey, if you really like this project, here's some goodies, small goodies you can get, and you can also be part of like supporting it, going forward. It's gonna
Is
take
the
a while
game
to yeah.
is the game plan to get this into some sort of like compendium to have it put together as a grand narrative, or is this just some sort of, is it a free form kind of
So
thing?
I like to think of it as it's gone through a few iterations of what it actually looked like. It's gonna be a book. That's what I know for sure. I want to have a real physical book of it, right? But what does it look like has gone through a few different ones because at one point it had a bit more narrative. It had a bit of rapping narrative to it and stuff like that. And then I just threw all that away. I spent so long on the narrative and I was like, you know what, this is not working because it was putting me into too small of a box. Like I was not able to just kind of freewheel ideas out. It was more like, oh, now I had to think about continuity, continuity. And so right now, for example, it looks more like a loose collection of pictures or a few pictures after a picture that tell like sometimes stories and sometimes not in the specific kind of area, and it's all collected, and I'm kind of thinking that's going to look a lot like an old-timey fairy tale book. It has
Mm-hmm.
cool borders, and I don't know if you know this there's this very well-known kind of Russian fairy tale book that has, I don't know the name right now, but that has all these really cool borders, very
Mm-hmm.
illustrated borders, cool little writing. Well, this is
Yeah.
going to have way less writing than that. It's going to have very little, but it's more going to be kind of like it's gonna be like a feeling book. It's like I want the book maybe to feel more than to read more. I don't know how to put that in a nice way. But as you can see, it's really sometimes a jumble in my brain too, how this stuff with this specific project actually works. Because I do kind of like to keep it kind of, I'm just going with the flow sort of. And eventually I'm gonna have enough of those pictures and drawings to put them all together and let's see what it's going to look like, right? But the basics are, as I mentioned at the beginning, just the Finno-ugricness and the Finn. Basically, it's kind of my nostalgic musing as well. Finland, living so far now. That's
Has
essentially what it is.
has anybody like come up to you and given you a take on one of the paintings or any of your paintings where you're like, wow, I did not see it as like I see it like that, but that's really good.
I'm pretty sure that yeah, but right now I can't remember. But there's definitely been a lot of really nice things written about some of them that have been very interesting. But right now, sadly, I can't recall any. But I do love listening to it. It's so
It's
cool.
it
Yeah,
makes me want to sort of like I almost want to like do a narrative of it just for funsies, like be like,
for
this is
sure.
my take on the story, and just
And you
and because
can. Yeah,
it's because I mean, as much as it kills me because I want to know exactly what happened in that, like, to the
yeah,
giant moose lady and what that girl's feeling. And is she feeling remorse, or is she just still in fight or flight? I will never know because
yeah.
you do not know either, and you will not, or and you're not telling.
Yes, yes. No, that's so cool. Even now, as I was saying, it's so cool to hear people giving their takes, like you just now giving your take. I just love hearing that. I love hearing the speculation and stuff. I don't know. It's just really, a lot of this stems from Are you much of a gamer? Like, do you play other games? Yeah, like
I play Monopoly. I'm like I literally I'm so I loved Nintendo and Super
yeah,
Nintendo growing up. I mean, like, but once the Super Mario 3D happened, I was like, fuck this. And nobody told me that video games actually went back to 2D again. So
right, right.
I just never got back into it. But
That's fair.
all
But
of my
there,
friends are gamers. So what was your like
yeah, so
your game that you love?
there's this great games called Dark Souls and Bloodborne, and so they're made by this company called From Software, and the basic idea guy behind all this is this guy called Hidetaka Miyazaki, and has this philosophy when he tells the stories in his game that he exactly how I basically kind of described it. He was told in one interview where he really likes leaving things vague for people so that and for himself so that he can have that like sense of rediscovery and that he really enjoys seeing because there's a huge community around this game. It's really putting this lore together, like what happened, like in this game, what's because they're very kind of mystical and interesting. So you have this kind of group effort of people putting things together. And I really like that. And I think that's where my whole design where I got part of my design philosophy for my own things. But yeah, I do like that same thing, seeing people put things together. Like and I also rediscover, as I said, rediscovering it for myself many times in a row. So yeah, that's the basics of it. At least with this project, I have some other projects in my head that I really would like to do, and they might be a bit more conventional.
How
But
do you
with
mean
this,
conventional?
like more, like that they have a more coherent, like a narrative.
Okay.
So I do have a few of those that I would love to get to someday. But looking at the timeline with this fucking thing, like I'm trying to set the bar low in regards to how many paintings I'm actually going to do for it. I'm gonna do more drawings for it because they are like faster to do. And sometimes you have an idea that's really nice, but I don't think it's worth the full painting. So just
Hmm.
get and draw it out, great. So, but I think it's still gonna take me years to do this, to be honest. Because sometimes I take time off from work, right? Because
Hmm.
I'm thinking, I'm going to really work on this. And then what happens is that I just can't get the painting down. I can't figure out what I want to do exactly with the idea. And I end up wasting like a weeks just thinking about it.
Oh
And so
God.
that, yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of terrible. And so that's why I can never kind of know like how long it's actually going to take me. But to be honest, I do think that I'm a bit of a perfectionist, at least when it comes to interesting ideas.
Hmm.
So I really am kind of harsh on myself, like what's actually worth it to do and what isn't, and how is it worth it to do. So I think it's kind of working against me sometimes, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't envy you a lot of, you artists. Like a lot of you have that going on where you're really harsh on yourself, which I mean, who knows? Maybe that is what makes a great artist, that
Yeah,
voice inside that is harsh, but at the same time, it always is painful to see that happening to
it is.
someone
It's
because
very yeah.
you're very talented. You see someone's very talented, and you're like, no, you're very talented. This is amazing. You don't have to be mean,
Right.
but you can't stop it because that it is what it is.
It's so difficult, because I do think on certain level that being this harsh on myself has kind of gotten me to point where I was because I kind of started drawing and painting late. I wasn't some insane prodigy, like or anything like that, right? It was very late process for me. So to get at this point has been, I mean, even for people who have been really good, it's always been an insane process to get where they are. But like, it was definitely, difficult for me. And but at the same time, it does come with, mental stuff too, and it's just the kind of suffering that you can put yourself through. It's just because there's so much ego wrapped up on it too, and all these
Mhm.
things. It becomes it encompasses your whole life. Like not a day goes by that I don't draw or do something else. And sometimes it feels like Howard Pyle, a great American artist, had a really good sentence about it. This that sometimes that when you don't feel like painting, that's when you absolutely need to be painting. And I
Mhm.
really try to do that, but oh man, it hurts. It's
Yeah.
it's just it's sometimes it's so difficult to just do. So I really, yeah, no, it's
Well, it's
it's
like
definitely affects mental health too. Yeah.
I think the way that Betty Davis, the actress Betty Davis, put it when they would ask her, "Did you have fun on set?" and she goes,
Mm.
"I didn't have fun. It was work." And so
Yes.
And that's, I guess, the kind of the sort of the, I think what you're alluding as like, even though everybody has this idealized notion of, art, being an artist is fun and you get to, have the most fun, but it should be work, and it feels like work when it is work.
Yeah, no, the highest highs and lowest lows of my life have been in regards to my own art, right? So I guess that says a little bit about it.
But
and I don't want to be some suffering artist stereotype, though. God damn it!
Right. Well, I reject that. I find people who think that the only type of good artist is a suffering artist. I think that that's a complete lie. Like you can get great art from any sort of situation. A great artist will be able to let you have that whatever headspace they're in. But that the people who are doom and gloom and they feel like that the only people who are really real are the people who are suffering. And I'm like, no, I don't. I mean, you don't want Van Gogh to have gone through what he went through. It was awful. Like
exactly.
He would have made great art if he hadn't have been suffering from mental illness.
Exactly.
It's just it's a tricky thing, but you seem to be on a very you seem to be on an excellent path. So I wouldn't worry too much, or at least I wouldn't. I'm saying you look impressive to the rest of us. So
I appreciate
to the non-artist world, we are impressed. So if there's anything else that you can think of, but give me anything else that I didn't mention, like that you're doing, or any sort of plugs that you want to do, you can let me know now. And I think I covered everything, but I may not have because I'm a schmuck.
I'll just give plugs to Zara because she's amazing, and I starts with James Gurney. I wouldn't be where I am if I hadn't been with her for so long. The kind of back and forth video.
If you do see Zara and if you talk to her, tell her that I'd like to interview her too. As well. I believe I made some attempts, but sometimes emails get lost in the shuffle. But absolutely would love to talk to her as well. So I think you probably have a line to her somewhere. So
perhaps,
yeah. Throw that one out there. See if hopefully it sticks. If not, I'd be like, just you don't have to say anything, and I'll be like, oh, just.
Yeah, for sure.
But it was great talking to you today. Thank you so much. It was a great conversation.
It was, thanks a lot, Alper. Really appreciate you having me.
You have a good, it's afternoon there. Yeah, you have a good afternoon.
Yeah, it's like 5 p.m. Yeah, afternoon.
Yeah, it's 8:11 here. It's all that I'm like that time distance. It's like, ooh.
Oh shit! Okay. Yeah, it's already that late.
Yeah. Florida. It's nighttime here. But anyway, isn't it? Had a great time today. Thank you so much again.
Yeah, thanks, man. Have a good one.
Bye.